Hey guys, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie and I'm going to do another tag. I just filmed the Hocus Pocus book tag, so now I'm filming the horror movie book tag. So you guys know the drill, so here it goes. Okay, question number 1. The Zombie Apocalypse, a book you would save when civilization ends. And I had a hard time coming up with my answer for this one. I almost did, I can't remember who it was that did, whose video I watched doing this tag, but I know I just watched someone's video where they picked 2 books. I just stuck with one, and that is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And I picked this one because it's full of hope and how, it teaches you to be kind to others and how not to be greedy, and it's just full of hope and a little bit of whimsy in it, or more, maybe whimsy is not the right word, but supernatural. And it's just a heartwarming story. It's a classic. It's very touching. Like I said, teaches you about being kind to others and not to be greedy and selfish. And it's Christmas. I know a lot of people, there are people that, because Christmas has religious connotations, but I still love Christmas, and this is just, I think this is a touching read, and plus I just love this edition of it, this edition that I got. It's the Vintage Classics edition, and apparently not all of them have color pages, because I got Anna Karenina, and that one does not have colored pages. I wish they had done it. They had done colored pages on it. I would also love to do it myself, but I don't trust myself with that, doing something like that. But yeah, I think Christmas Carol is one that I would save. Plus, it's always been part of my life, so. Okay, so question number 2. A vampire book. A book you would stake through the heart, and I don't have it. I don't have this book with me. But I went ahead and said Red Rain by R.L. Stine. I read this when I first moved here. This is his first foray into adult. And it read like a Lifetime horror film. Kind of like those, those Lifetime thrillers that they show. Those women, except for the main character. Well, I guess in a way the main character was a woman. It was just so cheesy and cliche, and just, I hated it. I only read it because at the time I had not discovered the wonders of DNFing. And I finished it and I gave it like 2 stars, just to be nice. But it just was cheesy and cliche, and I feel bad because it's R.L. Stine and it's his first foray into adult. But you could tell it was his first into adult books. I hated it. I just wish I hadn't read it. And like I said, this was before I did realize that I could DNF books. So, okay, so The Haunted House, a book that still haunts you today. And this was another one I had trouble with, but I went ahead and said Crime and Punishment, which I already want to reread, and I just read it like in 2019, I think. I think it started in 2018, but then I finished in 2019. This was so great. This is basically about a student who's broke, and he decides to resolve his problems by murdering a pawnbroker because he can steal all of her stuff. And he's dealing with the aftermath of that. All the guilt is weighing on him. He's so terrified he's going to get caught. There's a police detective who's on the case, who's very determined and is like a bulldog about it. And there's the subplot of his sister is being blackmailed by these 2 guys that want to marry her, and it's just, and he has his own romance with I want to say she's a prostitute, but she has her own family to take care of, and that's the only reason why she's selling herself for sex. And it's what's so, like, I was surprised that I love it as much as I did, but I didn't. It was such an engaging story, and I know that a lot of people aren't big fans of Dostoevsky's writing, because he's a very philosophical author, and will write and it's a chunky book. So, but as I say, just like with Charles Dickens, he probably got paid by the word. So, but it's so engaging. Like I said, I already want to reread it, and it's only been like a year since I read it. Maybe even a little more than that. But I don't know if I want to read. I might wait until because this year's almost over, so I don't know if I'm going to read it. I might start in December. I do not. December, November, I don't know. But I love this book. Okay, so question number 4. Cite the psychological thriller, a book with a twist you did not see coming, and unfortunately I can't reveal what the twist is, because that would spoil it, which I guess no one would in these kinds of questions. But I picked 2, because at first I had one answer, but then I was like, oh, actually I like this answer better. I decided to stick with both of them. One of them was one I just read, and then the other one was one I read a few years ago. Actually, no. Actually, I did read it this year. I read both these this year. Ethan Frome and The Haunting of Hill House. Both endings I did not see coming when I first read it. Even though, now, with Ethan Frome, I had read it twice, but I forgot most of what happened. I just remember at the time, when I first read it, I was bored. But I like it better now. But with both of these, I did not see the endings coming. So, yeah. And this is the best I could come up with, because a lot of times I don't even remember the end. I don't remember the endings of books, so in a way, I guess that means they're all a surprise to me. And I also don't ever think about, the twist or anything until I will think about it in the moment, but after the fact, I'm like, move on. I moved on already. Okay, so next question is The Creepy Doll, a book that seems innocent but isn't. And I went ahead and said one that I don't have, but I got it from the library, and that is Ocean at the End of the Lane. Because the book, most of the book is from a kid's perspective. So I feel like, and I think until people actually start reading the book, they think it's a kid's book, because it's for kids, because it has, like I said, it's from a child's perspective, it's from an adult's perspective, but we spend most of the time with the adult as a child, and it has some whimsicalness to it, like some supernatural, like basically it's this man remembering his past, this moment in his childhood, where his father cheated on his mom, and he witnessed, first, it's like he befriends his neighbor, this little girl, who might be magical, might have magical powers, and at the same time, he witnesses his dad cheating on his mom. He actually sees him and the woman, his dad's secretary, doing stuff, but he doesn't understand it, so to comprehend it, to understand it, he fantasizes that she's a literal monster taking over his home and family. And the little girl he befriends, she and her aunt and mom, I think, or her aunts or whatever, must team up to defeat this monster, and they teach him how to do it. And so, like I said, it's from an adult perspective, but the main character is a child throughout most of the book. And like I said, it's a unique story because, like I said, the only way he can understand it is if he sees it as like a fantastical thing, like the woman his dad is cheating on his mom with. He sees her as a monster. That's the only way he can understand it, because he's just a kid. He was a kid at the time. And there's some magical realism. And like when I went to my library to get it, to see if my library had Neil Gaiman, and they only had a few Neil Gaiman books. And The Ocean at the End of the Lane was in the kids' teen section. So I was like, no, this is not a kid book. This is not kid friendly. So they didn't realize it. I guess they eventually did, or maybe someone else put it in the adult section because it's an adult book. So I feel like So I feel like that's why it feels it could potentially be innocent at first, but it's really not, because it's about a kid witnessing something very adult. And he has to translate into something in a way that he as a kid can understand. It's a good book, by the way. It's not that long either. Okay, question number 5. The monster, but a book you could barely tackle or defeat. And let's see, what did I say for that one? Oh, I said A Game of Thrones, and now I've read this twice. It's still taking me forever, just like it and Gone with the Wind took me forever. Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin. This is a fantasy, but with very little magic, actually. There is a little bit, but it's very subtle. It's basically all these people after, the king dies at some point in the book, the present day king, so all these families who believe they have the right to the throne decide to fight for it, including the original owners of the throne, and as well as the king's brothers. And there's also the conflict of the legitimacy of the queen's children, whom they might not be the king's children. But it's so much more complicated than that. There's so much more going on in this book. There's a lot of political turmoil. There's war going on in the book. There's so many different storylines, including the storyline of the people who are trying to get the throne back, the Targaryen family, and there's old grudges going on in the whole series. And I'm not talking about just this book. There's the whole series. There are I think going to be 7 books altogether. And he just recently published a prequel, which is about the Targaryen family. And there's so much going on. And it might even be easier just to watch the show. But I know that a lot of people have issues because the last few seasons went right downhill. Right down. And and I don't think you should punish the book series for the show's writers. Don't punish George R. R. Martin, even if he ends it the same way. There's, as Daniel Green pointed out in his video when he talked about it, is that there's going to be so much more explanation, and even if, that kind of justifies the direction the series goes, because I know not everybody agrees with, the end to Nanny's story, but I think it does make sense. It's just we were caught off guard by it in the show because it felt like very sudden, and then all of a sudden happened. But I think there was a lot of clues in the show that kind of pointed in that direction, that she was gonna, go in the direction that her character was gonna go in that direction. Now, I know everybody has different opinions, and not everybody agrees with that. That's how I feel, and I think you should give the series a shot. Just because, if you have not read the books, or keep going with the books, even if you are reading the books and you just kind of stopped, like I did, keep going with the books. Which I need to. I need to get back into reading them. In the middle of Clash of Kings, the second book, reading it for the second time, and I need to finish it. It was one of these things where I started the series, and then I stopped in the middle of book 3, and I decided, let me just start over with all the series, and I have not. And once again, I stopped, and I'm in the middle of book 2, so I need to get back into it this year. Or, actually, I should probably just, say I'm going to get back into it in 2021. But, what was the question again? A book you could barely tackle defeat, so basically, yeah, it's taking me forever to read this, and I did finish this one. That's how I am with these books this size, even though it doesn't look that big to most people. For me, this is big. It's, let's see, how many pages? Okay. Not counting the extra stuff. Not counting all the extra stuff. This is all the stuff in the back where it talks about the families and stuff. Not counting the appendix. There's 807 pages. Because I don't read the appendices and the sneak peek for the next book. I don't usually read that, so I don't count those pages. So there are 807 pages in this book, and I did it. And I'm reading another book that's 800 pages. This is only over a little bit of that. Okay, so enough talking about that question. Okay, so question number 7, the comedy horror, a book mixed with mixed genres that worked or didn't work. And I picked one that I feel like it worked. And that is the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer. Now, I'm probably not going to read her other one because it's her newest book, because it's contemporary. I'm not a big YA contemporary. I might read some adult contemporary, but not YA contemporary. This is a sci-fi retelling of classic fairy tales, the Grimm Brothers fairy tales. Like, this one is Scarlet, and it's a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, and this is a Rapunzel retelling. They do a very sci-fi spin on it, and I thought that was really cool that they took it and turned it into a sci-fi story. Like, I thought it was very interesting, and Marissa Meyer did a lot of clever things to take like the elements from the original fairy tales. Like, the wolf is basically a man that is genetically engineered. He has like wolf body parts, like he has ears and stuff. He has like teeth and all that, and claws, and he has the sense of smell like a wolf, but he's part human. And then Crescent, then in the Rapunzel retelling, she lives in a satellite. So I feel like they did a lot of clever ways to show the elements of the original fairy tales with a sci-fi twist. And they also, for the Cinderella retellings, the first book is Cinderella. Cinderella is a cyborg, which I thought that was really cool. And then in Winter is the Snow White retelling. I can't remember the apple was like these candies that look like apples. And I'm trying to think of what were some of the other elements that they used. That were I can't think of them at the moment. But anyway, it was really, I feel like it's really clever. It really worked doing a sci-fi twist on fairy tales. Okay, and then question 8, I couldn't think of any other answer, so I went ahead. Question 8, the cliche teen horror book that you found super cliched and stereotypical. I couldn't find a better answer, so I picked Red Rain, again, by R.L. Stine. Like I said, it felt like reading a Lifetime movie. It's just so cheesy and cliche, and the kids' voices, I mean, I thought they were kind of cute at first, the little creepy kids in the story, but then after a while, it was kind of got annoying, and it would irritate me more than if I was listening to an audiobook, because I was just hearing it in my head. So I think that probably made it a little more tolerable. But yeah, that I just wanted to use that answer again. Okay, so next is question number 9, demonic possession, a book so grumpy you need an exorcist to escape it. And I picked It by Stephen King, which as you can see, I'm reading it again. I've already read it once. This was such a great book, and is kind of personal. And the newest movie makes me cry. So to be fair, the movies affect me more than the book, the movie adaptations, because there's 2. But this is so, and I think a lot of people can relate to us because we were all children at one time, and we all have childish fears that can still haunt us today. And I think a lot of people find clowns really creepy, and even though they originally were not meant to be creepy. I blame that one guy, Ed Gacy, or the one serial killer dude that would dress up like a clown for a living. I blame him. It's his fault that we're all now afraid of clowns. But it's just so, like, it's so personal, and I think, and like I said, he really gets inside your head, and, gets to where you're most vulnerable, your most vulnerable self, like when you were a kid, and every little thing scared you, and you were such an easy target for your fears. But it isn't just that. He also talks about a lot of issues that are still going on today. Racism, homophobia. Like, the opening of this book involves someone getting, like, abused because of, like, they are being abused because they are gay. And this person gets beat up. And then on top of the icing on the cake for this one is that Pennywise finds the body of the kid that got, thrown into the river, all because of his sexual orientation, and they didn't like it. They felt threatened by it. Pennywise eats him, because I'm guessing that Pennywise is starving. Like, there were some people I remember questioning why when Pennywise the Clown returns after 27 years, and eats someone that's not a kid, but a teenager, or a young, early 20s. I don't know how old he was supposed to be. I can't remember if he was supposed to be a teenager or not. But I think because Pennywise was starving and still, was weak, was still healing from his encounter with the Losers Club, and was still recovering. He just recovered, and he was probably starving, so it's like, I don't think he cared. He was just whoever he could easily access. That's why I think he probably went after this person who was not a kid, technically. But yeah, this is such an unnerving book. It is long, and yes, there is the infamous scene. If you read the book, then you know what scene I'm talking about, the most disturbing one that they will never put on screen. But don't hold that. It's one scene that, it may last quite a few pages. I don't remember how many pages, but it does last more than one page. I get that, but it's one scene. It's just one scene in the whole book. So, compared to how big this book is, this is over 1,000 pages, so I feel like people shouldn't punish the book just because of King writing that one infamous scene. Because, I'm not saying excuses for putting a scene like that in the book, but come on, look how big this book is. Is it really worth dismissing this whole book for the one scene? Don't punish the book for the one scene. For one scene that, yes, it may last, and it is a disturbing scene. I'm not denying that. It's a scene that should not be in this book in the first place. And yeah, it lasts a few pages. I don't remember how many, but to me, it doesn't matter. It's just one scene. You can, move on from it, and don't punish the book for it. But that's just me. Maybe it's just not enough. But anyway, either way, this book just stays with me, and I do want to read it. I am reading it again. It's the long book. And right now, I'm not in the mood for this book. I'm just not. Okay, so that was the last, what was that? Okay, so I don't have an answer for question 10, but if you want to know what that question is, it's science fiction. A precious book you will permanently sacrifice to the aliens for the good of mankind, and I don't have an answer for that one. If I had to think of one at the top of my head, it's so hard because there's some books that it's like, I wouldn't care about sacrificing them. But then there are some books that it's like, are they asking for you, like they say, a precious book? So are they asking you to sacrifice a book that's precious to you, that you're willing to sacrifice? Because like I said, there are books that I would be willing to sacrifice that aren't precious to me, but I'm okay with sacrificing them. Twilight. But again, it's just a book that's precious to you, so I don't know, maybe it should be a book that I love. And unfortunately, I don't have an answer for it. I don't know. It's hard for me to come up with one. So, okay, so if you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, click subscribe. If you haven't already, click the bell notification below to see when I post new videos. I hope you're staying safe and wearing your mask and washing your hands daily. But I mean, of course, I think that it's just common sense to wash your hands, whether you believe in this pandemic is serious, whether you believe in this pandemic or not. It's common sense to wash your hands. I was talking to a coworker saying there are some people who don't wash their hands, which is like, really? That's just gross. It's common sense. Whether there's this pandemic going on or not, you should still wash your hands. But I don't get why no one would. But I hope you do this tag. It's a fun tag, and I think you should consider yourself tagged. And I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!